So, on this episode of Rampage, there was a rap battle, and I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I decided, yes, I'm going to do this. I am going to do my own bars. And if you are wondering, yes, don't worry, this is going to be embarrassing for you and for me. We're never going to live it down. We're going to do it anyway. Because, yo, my name's Simon, and I'm here to say, I'm a bald old man. I'm having a good old day. People get mad at me in the comments and think I'm going to frown, but instead I just give them the big brown down. This is why I don't have any friends. Hello, yes, I am an absolute moron, also known as Simon from WhatCulture, and when wrestling gives me a show, I do indeed take the finger of power and get the good bits and the bad bits of down. So that's what we're going to do right now. You know the deal with Rampage, it's only 60 minutes long, so we get straight into the action. So it was Butcher and the Blade taking on Hangman, Adam Page and John Silver. And I'll be honest with you, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Not entirely sure what we're doing with the Cowboy at the moment. Hopefully there's a plan. It's always nice to see the Butcher and the Blade because they are good wrestlers and successful businessmen. And man, were they mad at Johnny Hungy because they just beat the living piss out of him till he eventually got the tag to Hangman. Because he was just so fired up and did all these dives all over the place and hit this flying lariat on the Blade to get a near fall, which is when the Butcher got his wits about him, grabbed Adam and just threw him into the ring apron and barricade over and over again, like he was hoping Hangman Adam Page would split open at the seams and he'd find some money in it. He ain't a piggy bank. This was kind of unexpected too, because then the heels were able to beat up the former AEW champion for a while, but this is so we could get hot dag number 2 to John Silver, and you know what he does here. He just goes absolutely crazy, and he was hitting these flapjacks and these suplexes. Like, damn it, man, you're good. The Blade somehow got busted open during all of this, which I do not think was the plan, but he got so angry, he hit the Dr. Bomb for a near fall. And this is when Adam Page was about to hit the buckshot lariat when the Blade grabbed him. So do you know what Hangman did? He moonsaulted over the top of his head like this was the Matrix. And then all of a sudden, John Silver was helping him. They double-teamed him. They double-teamed the Butcher. He got German suplex, and when he turned around, Hangman Adam Page came flying in with the buckshot lariat. He got the 1, 2, 3. And the last minute of this match was so damn good. And seriously, Hangman Adam Page is already amazing. Down the line, he is going to be even better still, and there will come a day when you can build the company around him, and I will be perfectly cool with that. Get it up. Quick video for the Ring of Honor pay-per-view that's going down later, talking about everything between Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta, and then we carried it on when it came to Claudio Castagnoli versus Jonathan Gresham, because out came Cloud. He was in the ring to talk about the fact that the Ring of Honor World Championship has always escaped him, but he's a damn good wrestler. We know he's a damn good wrestler, so now he has to prove it by having gold around his waist. That's pretty much it. Now, of course, you do have to do this because we need to sell some pay-per-views, but I tell you why I liked it as much as I did, because finally somebody said, hello, former Survivor, here's a microphone, just go into the squared circle and talk and say what feels right to you. And he did, and it was absolutely fine. None of this, oh my gosh, he can't talk, he's trying to keep him away from a microphone. No, he is a very likable chap. He's a very smart guy. He just comes across as somebody that you want to support. Mission success. Then I had another video for Wardlow, as he said that he wants to defend the TNT Championship against anyone from any locker room. So I can only presume we're going to start doing the open challenge again, and random guys are going to turn up when it was time for Lee Moriarty versus Dante. But you could say this wasn't as ridiculous as expected given who was involved, but they were trying to tell a story here, mostly that Moriarty wanted to prove he was Mr. Technical because he kept trying to bust out all of these moves. He also must have got in Dante's head because at one point he was going to smash Lee Moriarty with a dive, but he thought better of it because he too wanted to wrestle. Now, as a fan in 2022, I started melting down. I was like, what do you mean you don't want to do a dive? Here's how it's meant to work. You do a dive, then you do another dive, then you give it a few minutes, and you finish him off with a dive. It was a terrible idea because Moriarty then started to get Dante in a bunch of submissions, but the commentators were great here because they were like, oh wow, Lee is showing far more aggression here than usual. maybe it's leading to something. Dante finally remembered that he's basically a pogo stick and started to do moves like this crossbody and Hurricane Rana that made absolutely no sense when all of a sudden Stokely Hathaway walked out, and I was like, here we go. I kind of hoped he was going to stop both guys and say, no, now we are a threesome, but he didn't do that, and instead Dante Martin went for the nosedive, Lee Moriarty got out of the way, they were then trading the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, but when Moriarty's got his, he held the ropes and he got the win. Hathaway was smiling like he just played Mario 64 for the first time, and when they did cross paths, he tried to hand him his card, but Lee Moriarty just smiled and walked off, but you can imagine what's going to happen here. And Matt Sydal, who'd been watching, was so mad, he was like, oi, Lee, next week you're facing me, and that's probably when he'll turn for good. I really do think that Lee Moriarty and Stokely Hathaway together will be a really good pairing. All of this was very nice. Let's hope that we can use it as a jumping off platform up. Another video for Death Before Dishonor after this, as we are getting Mercedes Martinez versus Serena Deeb, when it was time for Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter taking on Sky Blue, and I believe she was called Ashley Durambois. Did not pronounce that right at all. Just know this, she had a fabulous name. I'm very intrigued by this though, because we now have Thunderstorm, we have Baker and Hayter, and I'm pretty sure Marina Shafir and Nyla Rose were teaming up recently. So are we about to do something with women's tag teams? I mean, we should, because if you get that right, it will be a success. Just don't compare it to what WWE have done. This is exactly what you assumed it would be. I mean, Ashley and Blue got some offense there, but basically Baker and Hayter at one point pulled the trigger and just ran through these people. But very curiously, there was not even a wink, wink, nudge, nudge about any kind of breakup here. So either we've scrapped that story or they've got back on the same page. Eventually, Baker was able to get Duran Boys locked in the lockjaw as well, and she did tap out, and now we're going to go on to these two taking on Thunderstorm, which then may actually lead to Britt Baker versus versus Thunder Rosa for the AEW Women's Champion All Out, which would be round 3. I'm kind of intrigued by that too, but look, it did its job up. I then got a video for Ari Daivari after this, which was really interesting because AEW doesn't usually do that, so he must be in line for something. And I was very happy because it was time for goofy wrestling. Because I did think this was fun for what it was, although actually I thought it could have been even better still given who was involved. It was the Acclaimed, it was the Gun Club, and they were having a rap battle. I think my disappointment came in the fact that Colton started for the Guns, and he was actually quite good. What I wanted from this was for him to cut a rap like I did at the start of the show, so you could just facepalm and be like, oh my gosh, you absolutely suck. Max Caster was great as always, and yes, there were some lines that made you go woof, but I can only assume that everybody involved agreed with it beforehand, so who am I to criticize it? My actual favourite one is when we were reminded that Max Caster was one of Bobby Lashley's sisters back in that awful angle. It's true. As ever, the Guns do not care about looking stupid, so eventually the Acclaim just absolutely decimated them and they basically started to cry. And we need more people in wrestling who aren't afraid to look stupid. I mean, it honestly is my favourite thing. In classic wrestling fashion, as soon as they realised they were defeated, the Guns beat up the Acclaimed. And they finished by getting a trash can and just thumping Max Caster right on the head so we can do this feud. But the biggest takeaway is that Max Caster and Anthony Bowens are now super duper mega baby faces. And this was just the right direction to go in because they're so damn lovable. Again, I actually thought this could have been a bit better, but I like seeing this kind of stuff on Rampage. Makes it different. We then got a bunch of reveals for all the AEW shows coming up, as well as the Ring of Honor pay-per-view, which Excalibur almost dies telling us because we only have so much oxygen. When it was time for our main event, Christopher Daniels versus Jay Lethal. You just knew Lethal was going to win here because he's not going to be defeated 24 hours before he's meant to be taking on Samoa Joe at Death Before Dishonored. So I suppose what we really wanted to establish here that Jay Lethal is an asshole, because basically even before the bell rang, he jumped Christopher and he was beating him up. Chris did get back into this for a little bit, but Jay understands how wrestling works, so after he had clonked him and put him onto the outside, he hit him with a dive, and he got back out the ring, back in the ring, and he hit him with another dive. And that is what I am talking about, and of course, because Sonjay Dutt was on the outside, he started casting interference, which did work. And then when Christopher Daniels was back in the squared circle, Lethal hit him with the muscle buster, and I was like, the disrespect. Christopher was able to find his feet once more, but then Jay Lethal did the nope spot, which is also what Samoa Joe does. Although he did not pull it off half as well, because Daniels went loopy after this, and he finished it off with an STO. He then got another near fall after the Blue Thunder Bomb, and then he went for the best moonsault ever, but Jay Lethal got out of the way. He then hit the Lethal combination, and he was going to go for an elbow drop, but Christopher Daniels was able to get his foot up, so he went for the Angel's Wings, but Jay Lethal was able to reverse that before he hit the Lethal Injection, and he got the 1, 2, 3. Seriously, you gotta go watch the last 5 minutes of this match. It rocked. And Satnam Singh obviously started to beat up Christopher Daniels afterwards as Jay Lethal stood there laughing like a Street Fighter boss. Ha ha ha. And I assumed that Samoa Joe was gonna come and to run out here and make the save, but he didn't. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but that would have been nice, like, oh my gosh, I've got to get the pay-per-view. But either way, very, very nice main event. So this week's episode of Rampage did do its job. It just wanted to remind you to spend some money on a Saturday night. And I do think that event looks pretty good on paper. I was entertained enough. Now please do leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of Rampage. Like the video, share the video and subscribe. Head over to WhatCulture.com where you can read yourself some articles. Make sure you follow us on social media. And SmackDown Ups and Downs is up. You'll probably want to watch it. My name is Simon for WhatCulture. Thanks for watching me as always. Goodbye.